The World Wide Web. Yes, that's right. You could be watching or listening on KSHP, the FM AM dial. Could be YouTube, our YouTube page. You could be watching on Occupy. We ask that you please click that subscribe button on Occupy if you can. And $5 a month, it's a cup of coffee, and you get extra content from yours truly. We got a big show lined up for you today. MAGA Republican will be joining me in studio. That's right. His name is Alan Bigelow. He's running for office in Clark County, District 5. He served this country honorably, and he's a former cop, current firefighter. He's a big Donald Trump supporter, so we're certainly going to dissect his brain on that. But I want to get right down to it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk to you about a story, a video that did go viral, and it has something to do with CPAC. So a gentleman by the name of Madhu Valamanakani was sitting down with his 17-year-old son, who happens to be special needs, and they were waiting and looking forward to listening to Donald Trump speak. They're sitting in their seats. They're not harming anybody. They're not doing anything wrong. And that's when security came over, and I'm going to call it harassment because they asked him to move seats, didn't really get a reason for it. This is exactly what it sounded like at CPAC at that moment.
Hey, sir, we're going to get you seats right back here, but you have to get up.
You get me seats there?
We're going to work on getting you seats back here.
Please get it,
for now, you have to get up.
No, you get me the seats, then I'll move.
Sir, you have to move now. Sir,
No, I can't. I can't.
Well, sir,
I can't move.
Sir, listen. We want you to stay and enjoy the program, but you have to move.
I know.
Okay?
Hassan, sit down. You're not leaving. You put 2 seats, I'm going to leave.
Sir, listen.
I'm going to leave.
Do we need you to move back here? Or
No. I have a special needs child here.
you can have all of
I
these seats?
can't. No, please. I can't. You're going to throw me out? You're going to throw me out?
You're going to be thrown out if you don't move.
Yes. Hello, media. Come on. This is not fair.
We don't want to have
You're going to be thrown out if you don't move. The person who recorded that video is the father you hear in the video, Madhu Valamakani, and he joins us right now on Pushing Limits. Madhu, first of all, I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us, sir. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sorry that happened to you. So let's start from the beginning. You've been to CPAC before, right? This wasn't your
Yes.
first CPAC, and your son had gone with you in the past?
Yes, about 5 times we've been to CPAC, even previous occasions, except for when we had COVID. At that time we couldn't go, but I think I've been going there since 2018 or 2019.
Okay, so you're a staunch Republican, right? And
I am.
you're a supporter of Donald Trump. You're there with your son, who
Exactly.
happens to be special needs. He's 17 years old.
Exactly.
You show up the other day. About how long did you show up, and were you sitting in those seats before security comes over to you?
Right. So what happened was this was on Saturday when President Trump was supposed to speak. So he was supposed to speak around I believe around 1:30 or something like that. So we knew that normally the last day when he speaks, we got to go early because of Secret Service and all that formalities.
Sure.
So we were there early. In fact, my son, he went a little bit ahead of me. So he did go there before, and he tried to reserve the seats. There was a section which was which was actually to the left side of the stage, and there were about 7 or 8 rows. So there were papers, mentioning that these seats are reserved, but that was only for the last 2 rows.
Gotcha.
We left 1 or 2 rows, and my son could go in a little early, and he actually reserved. He sat in one of the seats, and he also reserved a seat for me. And there were a bunch of other, young people there. They all sat there, and everything was going on fine. We were there till about 1:30. All of a sudden, a young lady comes and tells us that we got to move to some other place. I said, if you can find us some other seats, we don't mind moving. Then what happened was they said, yeah, we're trying to accommodate. We need some additional spaces for Trump staff. But actually, it was not Trump staff. Really,
Right.
speaking. Trump team or Secret Service, they had nothing to do with this because it's on the site. There were some guests who they could not accommodate initially in their so-called VIP section. So the overflowing crowd had to be accommodated somewhere else. But my point was to actually make sure, they should make sure that these things should not happen again and again.
No, they shouldn't. But I'm going to ask you what I would consider is a very difficult question to ask. And I'm sorry I have to ask it this way, but I think it's an important question to ask. Do you feel in any way, shape, or form, Madhu, that they came up to you and your son, that it might have had anything to do with the fact that your son was special needs? Did you get that sense at all?
I did raise a point that initially I didn't want to tell, that because, my son had special needs, I didn't want to really go that way. But, my idea was to, yes, we were sitting in the seats, and there were the rows where we were sitting clearly were not initially indicated that they were reserved. So
Mhm.
after that, just before Trump walked in, maybe around 10 minutes or 15 minutes before that, then they said, oh, we need more places. So we need more rows. They didn't tell us that they needed more rows, but they said, oh, all the 3 or 4 rows are for Trump staff, which is not
And
correct.
there were a lot of open seats around you. Is that correct?
There were a lot of open seats. That's why, somebody was trying to tell that I think they might have been associated with the event. So they were trying to tell me that, oh, no, 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 these were, we had reserved,
Yeah.
places there. That's why
Yeah.
they had those papers there.
Sure, sure. Now, listen, you're not the first person that I heard of that was harassed or asked to move seats, or even some people leave at a Trump event. But I want to ask the question like this, because this is the part that is frustrating to me. Now, I know there have been some politicians that have reached out to you that,
Yeah,
and I appreciate that, by the way. Even somebody like George Santos, who
yeah,
I don't have a lot of respect for, but he's been
yeah,
very vocal
exactly,
about what happened to you and your son,
exactly.
which I think is disgusting, right?
Yeah,
And I don't know what's in their heart. I don't know if they wanted to move you to seats that were more in back because your son has special needs. If that is the case, that's disgusting. It's deplorable. But with that being said, in my personal opinion, and I know that you're a Republican, that's fine. I respect that. But Donald Trump should have picked up the phone, because he knows this happened. He should have picked up the phone and he should have called you. I believe if this had happened at a Democrat event, which I'm not sure it would have, but let's just say it did, I believe Joe Biden, at first he heard about this, he would have called you and he would have said, I'm so sorry. I'd like to invite you to my next event, VIP. Let's meet. I believe Joe Biden would have done that. Are you disappointed that
uh,
you didn't hear from Donald Trump? You didn't hear from Matt Schlapp, that
uh,
these people didn't reach out to you?
Actually, I was shocked that nobody from CPAC. In fact, I was tagging them. Nobody from CPAC actually told me, or they had any explanation or anything like that, because the same thing happened even last year. Last year, CPAC also, in fact, one of the security persons, he was not coming forward. I think he was very, very understanding. I don't have anything against the security, CPAC security. There's nothing to do with
Right.
Secret Service or anybody. Even the uniformed cops who were there, who were being actually accosted, and they came. They were like very, very polite, and they were
Mhm.
just standing and listening. They're very careful. I hats off to them, everybody for doing their job. I know it's a big event, and
But
they
it
have to
shouldn't
do
have
all.
happened in the first place. I'm
Exactly.
glad that they were polite to you,
They
but it
were.
shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Correct.
And the point that I'm making, and I think we agree on this, Madhu, is that it would have been nice if Trump could have picked up the phone for 2 minutes and just called you. It would have been nice if Matt Schlapp, who I'm not a big fan of either, would have picked up the phone and said, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm going to give you VIP tickets next year or whatever, just to reach out to you and take 2 minutes of their time. When it takes somebody like George Santos to
Yeah.
take a couple of minutes and watch your video and speak
Yeah.
out against it, then
Yeah.
what's the excuse for Donald Trump or Matt Schlapp or even his wife to, you see what I'm saying? I know you agree with me on this. Like, it would have been nice if they did that.
Yeah, I just like to highlight one thing. In fact, once I posted, because George Santos was basically, he was a congressman from my area and
Right.
from my district, and he was the first one actually to take up this, and then he also retweeted, and then he put his comments there.
Yeah.
I mean. For me, that was nice. I have no complaints on that. So definitely, I thought, because it's been more than 48 hours, I posted this on Friday. My idea is not to criticize anybody. My idea is to make sure that they do not do this next time. They should have planned it better. Definitely, it's improper planning, I guess. So they should have. I mean, if the venue is a small place, then they should have gone for a bigger venue. Then so that they could have had
Right.
more.
Right.
More
So if somebody asked you, Madhu, and listen, I didn't want to have you come on the show and talk politics with you necessarily, but if somebody asked you, well, why do you want to go back? You were clearly mistreated. You have a special needs son. What they did to you, in my opinion, is harassment. It was rude. Nobody reached out to you, at least no Trump's people, nobody from CPAC, the organizers. If someone said to you, well, then why do you want to go back, and why would you want to continue to support this event? What would you say to that?
um, I would say, basically, my son being a 17-year-old child, even right from the beginning, his idea was to. I mean, he was very much interested in, you know, uh, what do you call, politics and
Mhm.
governance. So that's why even for his, undergrad, he's choosing that. Those that area basically. So he wanted to be in politics. Political science was
Sure.
his core areas. Yes, there are two what do you call, two different parties, or two different ideologies, or whatever we
Yeah.
call it. So I raised two kids. One is very left leaning, and one is
Huh.
he's I mean, I wouldn't say left leaning. I mean, he definitely
Right.
is
Right.
more kind of a liberal kind of a mindset guy.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
but they love each other so much. My idea is,
Right. Right.
okay. He also actually participated in a couple of campaigns. Yes, it was a Republican campaign because he got
This
an
is your other son?
opportunity.
I'm sorry to
My
interrupt.
younger son, my
So
younger
what did your younger son say about this?
he was not happy, definitely, with the way that happened. I mean, a couple of the CPAC security guys were a little bit rude. They would have actually, what they had done. In fact, they did arrange a couple of seats in a couple of rows down. They did arrange us two seats, but had they done that before, all this would not have happened. My point is,
Yeah.
they have to do a better planning, and I think this is definitely something that they should correct themselves. And
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry this happened to you and your son. It shouldn't have happened. Everybody makes mistakes, and I would love to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that them doing this, had nothing to do with the fact that your son has special needs, but I don't know that for sure. Here's what I do know.
right,
You were mistreated. You and your son were mistreated. What they should have done after the fact
correct.
is somebody should have reached out to you from CPAC. It wouldn't have been
Exactly.
hard for them to do that. Donald Trump, what would it have meant to you? I know that you are a Trump supporter, even though,
Yes,
some of your family members are not, but I don't
right,
want to get into that stuff with you
right.
because I'm
That's
not a Trump supporter, but that's not why I wanted to have you
fine.
on.
That's fine.
What would it have meant to you if Donald Trump got your phone number with your son and on speakerphone and spoke to you guys for a couple minutes? What would that have meant to you and your son?
I mean, especially to my son, it'll be really great. It will be incredible, and he would be certainly very, very happy.
Yeah.
I mean, he the main reason why he prefers to go and attend CPAC is that's a place where he can sit and listen to Trump's
Yeah.
speech, which
Sure. Sure.
he likes to listen to. So I wanted to support him, whatever
Sure.
is needed. Yes, it is expensive for me.
But
I'm
you sound like a good dad. You sound like a good dad. And regardless of whether you're a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter, and listen, some people might call me biased here. I truly believe, Madhu, if you were treated that way at a Biden event, I truly believe Joe Biden would have reached out to you. And I guess that's the part to me that is a little bit frustrating, but it's important. It's important that you share the story. You're right. It can't happen again.
Okay. Yes.
And if it does happen again, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry that you and your son were mistreated. We live in a free country where you can support whatever candidate you want. You were there to have a good time, show your son a good time. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but I appreciate you coming on the show. If there's anything we can do for you, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. And we're going to continue to spread the word. And I do hope somebody from CPAC eventually reaches out to you, because that needs to happen, sir. It really does.
Yes.
Yes. And
Thank you so much, Brian.
And I appreciate your time, Madhu. You sound like a great guy. I wish you and your son the best. And let's keep in touch. Okay, my friend?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Madhu. Appreciate your time. That's Madhu Valamakani. He and his special needs 17-year-old son were harassed at CPAC, waiting in their seats for hours to listen to Donald Trump speak. And then just minutes before Donald Trump takes the stage, they were harassed by CPAC security, said, "You need to move seats or we're going to kick you out." Just absolutely disgusting and pathetic and ridiculous. And yes, I don't believe that would happen at a event hosted by Joe Biden or the Democrats. But if it did, I guarantee you Joe Biden would have reached out to those people. Donald Trump didn't. Matt Schlapp didn't. Nobody. George Santos, the only person. It's ridiculous. All right, here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, friend of the show, he is a Trump supporter, which is okay. He's a Republican, which I appreciate. And he is running for Assembly District 5. His name is Alan Bigelow. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be joined by Alan in studio. And, of course, we will take your calls next segment as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area. All your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. You know, no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
I'm Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, former Lieutenant Governor candidate, Progressive Independent Democrat, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, fully transitioned transgender woman. I support women's rights and veterans and unions and other progressive ideas. Please donate to my campaign on Spot Fund and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Stay progressive, everybody.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. My producer is torturing me today. That was the theme song of CPAC over the weekend. Trump won and you know it. Thanks for joining us. You know, we just had Madhu Valamakani on the show. He actually was at CPAC with his special needs son, 17 years old, harassed by CPAC security. Video went viral. I appreciate him taking the time to join us. I interview all sorts of people on this show, from porn stars to politicians, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the guy we have this in studio right now, as far as I know, he doesn't have a porn career. No, he is running for office. He's a great guy, friend of the show. He's a former police officer. He served this country honorably, and he is a current firefighter who was recently injured in a fire. He's running for Assembly District 5 as a Republican. Alan Bigelow joining us in studio. Alan, it's always a pleasure having you in studio, sir. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Brian. Doing really, really well. Like I was just telling you, it's just a small thing with the fire, and everything is well, and no damages. I mean, I feel like $1 million ready to roll and do another marathon.
Well, you know, I always say this about you to start the interview, and I think you know me by now. I don't usually say things ever really that I don't truly believe. You know, your service to this country, public service as a former police officer, you've risked your life over and over and over again, and you are a true hero. With that said, I always start off this interview, and we'll get to the local politics, and I want to hear your criticisms.
I know where you're going.
I want to hear your criticisms of Joe Biden. I want to dissect your brain a little bit. But before I get there, you know, it seems like over and over and over again, every time you come on, it's something new with Donald Trump, how he offends brave men and women who serve this country like you did. I mean, what goes through your mind when he talks about Nikki Haley's husband? He mocks Nikki Haley's husband, who happens to be overseas, you know, the suckers and losers. I mean, those are the statements he's made. And what goes through your mind when you hear that? Because I know you support Donald Trump.
Well, you know, and a lot of times it's something to get a reaction out of people, I think. I think it's one of those shock and awe statements a lot of times just to get people to hear him. And sometimes, I mean, I've said it before. I mean, I support him, but I don't always agree with what he says. And in Nikki Haley's case, I mean, she's hanging in there and hanging in there and hanging in there. And it's like, you're getting beat in every market, in every state, in every single kind of election. She got beat in Nevada by none of the above. Who's ever been beat by that?
Well, she doesn't have a chance. I think we all know that. But I will ask you this question. What did you make of what the Republican Party did, at least here locally? A lot of people say the fix was in with what the Republicans did with Nikki Haley primary on Tuesday and then the caucus on Thursday. Why would Mike McDonald do that? Why would the Republican Party do that?
Well, we've had a caucus here for quite a number of years. It's always been on a presidential election year, because that's how we've chosen our delegates, or how we send them up to the national conference, and that's where they vote. But all of the candidates were given the opportunity to get into the caucus. They chose not to, or they were advised not to, whatever the case was. And I was told, and again, I don't have this as a fact. I'm putting that disclaimer there. But I was told that Nikki Haley, her staff, didn't do it. And once the deadline passed to do it, it was done.
That could be possible, and
so
I don't know that either.
I don't know that she didn't want to.
Right.
I know that she didn't make the cutoff to get in it.
So I understand that you're a staunch Republican. I get that. I understand the fact that you're not going to agree with a lot of the Democrats' policies. You're not going to agree. I get it. You're a Republican. That makes sense to me. I understand that. We might not agree on a lot of things, but that's fine. I totally understand
and
that.
That's the good part. You and I can sit down and we have these conversations
Absolutely.
back and forth. And and I think if people are a little bit more pragmatic about it and they'd open the dialogues,
Absolutely.
the governor wouldn't have had 75 vetoes. He would have had a few.
I agree with you with what you just said 100%, and that's why I always enjoy having you in. But this is the part that I struggle with. I get it that you don't want to vote for Joe Biden. I understand you're a Republican. I respect that. I understand it, even though we might disagree. This is the part I just don't get, Alan, because I respect the heck out of you, and you're a good man, a good father, a good husband. I get all that about you, and this is the part that drives me crazy. He was found liable of sexual abuse. The judge characterized it as rape. Now, if you don't want to characterize it, that's okay. But this is a man who's facing 91 felony counts. He called people like you suckers and losers. He dodged the military. I can go on, right? I can't I get it. You don't like Joe Biden. You don't like his policies. You're a Republican. How though can you say I'm going to support Donald Trump? That's the part, as a good man, and I respect you, I help me understand that. That's the part that drives me crazy. I don't understand.
Well, and we've talked about this before, and I told you that I would support the Republican nominee,
even if they're a convicted felon.
And in this case, it's looking like it's going to be him. And again, I don't agree with everything he does. I don't think everybody, as a whole, most people don't. But they agree with his business tactics, and that's what brought a lot of success to this country. Now we're facing, for Pete's sake, a candy bar costs you what a dozen eggs used to cost you, and a dozen eggs is more than a gallon of gas.
So who do you blame for that?
I blame it on Bidenomics because of the influx and open borders and the things that keep continuing to happen. Because who has the money to sit there and hand out a debit card for $5,000 to somebody who just jumps across the border because they want to do it?
Then why wouldn't Republicans sign off on the bill, the bipartisan bill? If they really cared about the border, why did Donald Trump say, don't sign this bill unless it's perfect? Why does he want the economy to crumble? This is the guy who you support who said he wanted the economy to crumble, and he told House members, Republicans, to not sign this bill. If he cared about the border, wouldn't you want to work with Democrats and get this bill signed?
I think a lot of times, and I can't address how he thinks. I can only address how I think in this. And if we're setting up billions of dollars in aid and we're not taking care of all of our allies in it, including our border,
why can't we do both?
That's the question I have.
Well, it was in the bill. It addressed
but
both.
there was money that was not allocated to Israel. I know that.
In the bill, there was money allocated.
Not
to
the money that they needed.
Okay, I can't speak to that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If they'd have conversations like you and I are having, then those things would probably happen.
I guess that's my frustration, Alan, because they did. There were House Republicans that helped put this bill together. It's not perfect. I'll agree with anybody. It's not perfect. Let's go back to what you said about inflation and the price of eggs. So I think, as you know, across the world, inflation was way up.
Yep.
It's gone down to around 3%. And I'm not blaming Donald Trump for COVID. I blame him certainly to the reaction to it and what he did thereafter. But
there was some missteps.
Right,
in
but we
there,
don't
and
need to go there.
Yeah.
We agree there were a lot of mistakes made. But if inflation is up all over the world, gas prices up virtually all over the world, gas prices have plunged on the way down, inflation has plunged, unemployment rate lowest it's been in 50 years, and the countries that we compare ourselves to in the history of this country, where we compare ourselves to, we're doing pretty darn well. Wouldn't you give Joe Biden some credit for that, or would you blame him for all the inflation that we faced and all that? I guess that's my question.
I think in a lot of that, so, on the gas side of it, it typically runs ebb and flow kind of thing. In the springtime it drops, and it's traditionally something that happens. In the wintertime it goes up. Recently we just saw the article that the gas company here locally is going to pump our price up by another $100 next year.
Isn't that corporate greed?
I got to do some more studying on it because it doesn't make sense to me.
I think it's corporate greed because when you look at, and you're right, they are going to pump up the gas. When you look at these oil companies in the last several years, record profits. I believe it comes down to corporate greed. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you look at the gas prices that have plummeted, and when you look at inflation, which was double digits, and now it's around 3%, I say to myself, okay, well, things are heading in the right direction. I guess I look at the economy that Donald Trump took over. The economy that Barack Obama took over was a disaster. George W. Bush left him a pile of crap.
There's no doubt of that.
And then Obama takes over, 8 years, left Donald Trump a pretty good economy. I think even most Republicans would agree with that. I would say Donald Trump did a pretty good job of not, messing it up until COVID hit. The response was terrible.
And you can even look at the state of Nevada in that because Governor Sisolak at the time did his first press conference and didn't even know what he was talking about. He had to look over to his chief of staff. Oh, I need to ask my chief of staff. Oh, what? I need to ask my chief of staff. And I'm like, you're not even prepared to talk. Why did you do this? You know, why didn't you read your notes or have your chief of staff talk to you a little bit
CISLEC
more?
did not do a good job when it came to press conferences,
Mm-hmm.
but I would also say on a national stage, Donald Trump talking about injecting yourself with disinfectant and taking our COVID press conferences and turning them into campaign rallies
Mm-hmm.
was worse.
You know, and I heard some of that, and I had to think, you know, tongue in cheek on it, because anybody with common sense would not even take that seriously. You know, I wouldn't. I mean, especially, you know, I work as as a firefighter.
There's a lot of people. You have common sense. There's a lot of people in this country that do not.
and that's the thing. You have to be careful on how you approach those subjects. And I think
And
there
he
was
doesn't.
some carelessness,
Yeah.
and I think there was some mistakes, and I think that's been very well documented across the nation. I think Fauci was probably the wrong guy to have in that position.
Who Trump put there.
Yeah, and he keeps waffling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and I'm like, pick a direction, guy. You know, either do this or do that. And now we're starting to see medical evidence that they should have tested the vaccines a little bit more.
I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor, but I would say this. Trump wanted to take credit for Operation Warp Speed.
Mm-hmm.
He still does.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I hear a lot of Republicans calling the vaccine poison, which it's not. I think we could agree that every vaccine has its risks,
Sure.
for lack of a better term.
I mean, when they brought the polio vaccines out
Sure.
you know, years and years ago, everybody took them, and there was
Yeah.
people that were sensitive to it.
Right. But I mean,
know-
you'll agree with me, half the world has taken the vaccines. They're overwhelmingly safe. I mean, when I hear these stories from some of these people, I'll try to not even say their names, but it rhymes with Kook, his last name, who says millions of people have died from the vaccine, which, by the way, they haven't. I get very frustrated with that. You know, Dr. Phil, I might talk about this later, went on The View today. Dr. Phil is not
Dr. Phil on The View.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have seen that.
It's entertaining, but
you know, I've never watched The View, but that would have been an interesting show.
it's entertaining, and I watched a little bit of it. Here's my problem. He's not an infectious disease doctor.
No.
That's not what he does. No more than Dr. Oz is, right? I had a conversation with Dr. Oz about this a few weeks ago. I want to hear from infectious disease experts talking about the vaccines. Doesn't mean they're always right. And when I hear right-wing radio hosts say that the vaccine has killed millions of people, not only is it a lie, but it's dangerous. I'm not saying there's not misinformation coming from the left also. Sometimes there is.
Well, you know, I think there's a reason why they call it medical practice. You know, since I've been practicing medicine, I hit 20 years with the fire department on Valentine's Day.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And I've been practicing medicine as an EMT for 23 years because I started on an ambulance prior to that. Things change every day. You know, we do CPR
Sure.
differently than what we did 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
And
It's easy to Monday morning quarterback.
sure.
Yeah.
You know, and so when something comes out, something happens, I look at it from my experience. I look at it, you know, what I've seen on the street, what I see as patients' needs and my own, you know, physical responses to different things. I didn't get a shot, and I didn't get COVID. Now, I'm not saying I'm some super immune guy, because I'm probably not. When I went into the Army, they lined me up with, you know, like 15 guys
Sure.
with those little pneumatic shotguns, and
Sure.
wore out both of my shoulders for several days because I was going overseas.
Right.
I didn't know it was in it. They just told me I had to get
Well,
it.
that's scary, right?
You know?
and I respect.
So-
I don't think you should have ever been forced to get the vaccine. But here's my point when it comes to the vaccines. 85% of those in the medical field, could be nurses, could be doctors, anybody in the medical field, 85% of them are vaccinated. If this truly was that dangerous that some people, many of whom that don't have medical experience, claim it to be, then why would more than 8 out of 10 in the medical field take the vaccine? It doesn't make any sense to me.
A lot of them were ordered. A lot of them, their job was on the line if they didn't take it. And
But if they
I didn't
truly
think
thought
that
it was
fair
poison,
either.
they wouldn't have taken it, right?
Do you turn around and dump a career where you've got 18 and a half years in, or do you take the shot and finish those last 2 so you can retire?
If you think you're taking something that's going to kill you, I would say most people probably wouldn't do it.
And that's where I think that, you know, there's a lot of misinformation and education that needed to come out, because people were forced. The military was forced to take the shot. If you were in the military, it didn't matter who you were. If you wanted to continue your career, you had to take the shot. It was a command. Nurses and doctors here in Las Vegas, If you wanted to work in the hospital and make money for your family, you were ordered to take the shot. Now, did it help? Did it hurt? I don't know. And again,
You don't think the vaccines were helpful?
I don't know that. I don't know if they were or they weren't, because I'm like you. I'm not an infectious disease specialist. I'm a guy that puts Band-Aids and on people and splints them up and rushes them to the hospital. So the long-term care side of it, I just don't really have the information to go on it,
So
other than what I've seen.
The vaccines didn't stop you from getting COVID. The vaccines didn't stop you from spreading COVID. However, overwhelming evidence shows that if you're vaccinated, you had 10 times, more than 10 times actually, and there's hundreds of studies that would show 10 times less likely to either die of COVID or be in the ICU. And that was enough for me to say, okay, I'll take it. Didn't stop you from giving it to other people. Didn't stop you from getting it. All I know is before the vaccines came out, I was in the ICU for 2 weeks with COVID. I took the vaccination and I was boosted.
And my kids got it. So
Right. And they're okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're healthy.
Why I didn't get it, I don't know.
But isn't that enough?
And I was exposed hundreds of times.
And I'm glad
Hundreds.
you're okay and you have that right not to take it. And I'm not going to criticize you for
yeah.
not taking it. I'm not one of those people.
Right.
But the fact that your kids took it and they're healthy and well, isn't that enough for you to say, hey?
And that's the thing. A couple of them did, a couple of them didn't.
Right.
All but one of them got COVID that I know of. And
I'm not in favor
Why
of
is-
forcing
yeah.
anybody to take it. I want to be.
That's the thing.
Okay,
I think
I'm not.
I personally I think it's an elective vaccine, and that's personal opinion. If you want to take it, please,
Right.
by all means.
Right.
If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't be forced.
Right.
I am not about mandating anybody to do anything. As we put our kids into school, there's certain shots that they say they have to go to or to take to go to public school. Well, there's schools out there that say, you know what, we're a private school. You don't got to do it. You have a choice.
Bring your kid to a private
Bring
school.
your kid to a private
Well,
school.
wouldn't you say the same thing about a job?
Sure.
You have a job. Guess what? If they're forcing you to get vaccinated, get another job.
Well, and what do you do with a career military person then?
That's a very difficult situation.
You know,
if you're
you
so
have-
against the vaccine, then that's a very difficult spot to be in.
You have, in Las Vegas, the firefighters had choices to be, given, and nurses here and doctors here in Las Vegas, they were told that's, it's that or not work.
I just think it got too political. And
Oh, I don't disagree with you
yeah,
at all.
what I've said on the radio for years now, since COVID, is I've said, don't listen to me. Certainly don't listen to Sean Hannity or right-wingers that don't have any medical experience either. Listen to your personal doctor
Right.
and then make a decision with your personal doctor and your family and leave it at that. What I don't like is people that still spread misinformation.
Yeah, just do your research.
Wayne Allen Root, I will say his name because I think he's a despicable human being who goes on the air and says millions of people are dropping dead. Not only is it a lie, the Attorney General sent Wayne Allen Kook a letter telling him to stop because he claimed he had pills that cured COVID. Only a despicable human...
Are you talking about ivermectin?
No, it wasn't ivermectin. He claimed that he had a pill and he tweeted it out, and I interviewed him about it, and then the Review Journal fired him after I interviewed him because the things he says are ridiculous and they can harm people. Listen, if you right now, Alan, say, I think Donald Trump is the Lord and Savior, he's my Lord and Savior, which I don't think he would say,
No,
but he's
no, not even close.
he's the next Messiah, he's the best president ever, I would say, okay, I strongly disagree with you, but you're entitled to your opinion, right? That's different. But when you say you have a pill that cures COVID, not only are you lying and you're a snake, but that can harm people. And it's just like, that's the kind of stuff that gets me angry. You have a personal choice. You don't want to take the vaccine. I support, what you're doing, even though I might disagree with why you're doing it. You have that right. I support you. You see what I'm saying? I just like when someone on the left, if someone
what we were just saying,
right?
Do your research. If you think it's right, then it's right. And if you think there's some miracle pill out there to take, that's your right to take.
It's your right to take it, but you can't go on the air and say that. You can't say, I have the cure for COVID. You can't do that.
I'm not a doctor, and I'm not going to go out there and say I have a miracle pill. I know ivermectin has been very effective. I know things like that. I know that, Mucinex was very helpful for many, many people. Is it a cure? Am I a doctor? Do I prescribe it? Not at all.
Understood.
No way.
I certainly want to get to the border with you, but I also do want to open up the phone lines now, and then maybe we'll take a break, and I want to talk to you about the border, if that's okay. Alan Bigelow joining us in studio. He's running for Assembly District 5. He served this country honorably, risked his life not only as a brave man in uniform, but also as a police officer, and he's still doing it as a firefighter. So certainly have a lot of admiration for him for that. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now, 221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, a chance to speak with Alan. Here's a man who served this country honorably, but he is going to support Donald Trump. He's not alone. There's a lot of other Republicans out there that might not like some of the rhetoric that Donald Trump spews, but they're still going to support him over Joe Biden. A chance for you to dissect his brain as I am. Again, that number, 702-221-7283. 702-221-SAVE. Why don't we start off with Carl? Carl is first up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Carl. You're on with Alan. Go right ahead.
Yes, hi, Brian. Hello, Mr. Bigelow.
Hi, Carl.
I first want to say to you, I admire and support your background, and
Thank
I think you're a good man, even though I think Trump is a clown, but that's your opinion. But anyway, listen, you were talking about the COVID and so forth. I'm retired, but I wasn't a psychologist, but I did go to med school. And I want to say one thing, that when you get your COVID, I've been fully vaccinated plus double boosted, same as my wife. And when you get your shots, it doesn't stop you from getting the virus,
Right.
but it does make it much, much weaker. Now, 99% of all doctors I know, and I know a lot of them, all have been vaccinated, and say when their patients if they get the virus, it keeps them generally from dying and keeps them out of the
I see
hospital and so forth.
Yep.
And it's the ones who don't. Here's the difference between the people on radio who say everybody's dying for it. It's the ones who don't get vaccinated, and if they get the COVID, they're the ones who die. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who don't make it. They end up on respirators and on oxygen and so forth. They're the ones, not the vaccinated people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not saying that, you have to get a shot or you don't have to get a shot or there's this effect or that effect. I didn't get it, and I've been very healthy and not had any issues
but you may
with
be
it.
lucky.
And it just may be, maybe it was that cocktail of shots that they gave me early on in the military that kind of keeps everything out. But
some people have a natural immunity
sure.
To a point, which helps. But what I'm saying is, everybody who ever asked me, should I get when it first started, should I get the vaccine? I said, definitely, yes, do it, because if you do get the COVID, believe me, it's going to be a lot weaker and a lot less.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I got COVID multiple times. The first time I got it, I was not vaccinated. I almost died. The second and third time I got it, I had the sniffles for a couple days. So, listen, I think there's something to it. Carl, I do appreciate your call. I got to get to some other callers, my friend, but I'm on board with you 100%.
Well, thanks for calling. Yeah.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you.
Take care.
Thank you. You too. 702-221-7283. We've got Alan Bigelow running for Assembly District 5, Republican. Trump supporter, also served this country honorably, former police officer, now firefighter. Why don't we go to Joseph? Joseph is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Joseph.
Yeah, hey, Brian. Here's my piece. All right, now, hearing that video about the 17-year-old special needs kid at the CPAC makes me think that is more disgusting for me, because that's the problem with Trump and those MAGA Republicans. They don't care about those with special needs. They're repulsed for their imperfection. They're repulsed for what they are, and it's more disgusting for what they look instead of what they are.
I'm going to let Alan respond to that, because Alan, you are friends with a lot of huge MAGA Republicans. What would you say to Joseph, who says they don't care? MAGA Republicans don't care about kids with special needs and that type of thing. What would you say to Joseph?
I didn't see the incident. I didn't get a catch. I've been running a campaign, and I didn't get a chance to catch up on it. But my position in all of that is, we're all people, and we all deserve respect, and we all deserve dignity. If somebody with special needs is wanting to attend a conference or something, they should be able to go, just like everybody else. We were doing the rally here, and I was helping with the rally quite a bit, and we set up a specific line for special needs guests, whether they were deaf, whether they were in a wheelchair, whether they had a learning disability.
You're talking about when Trump was in town.
Yeah.
And I applaud that.
And I went through the line, and I had some people going through the line to pull these folks out, because obviously they can't stand in a line forever. and they deserve just as much chance as everybody else.
Obviously, I agree with you, and I think that's great. The only thing I will say, and I know you weren't a part of this, but I know people that were kicked out, and I know people that were refused entry because they're not Trump supporters. I know one person that supported Ron DeSantis. You didn't make that decision, but people within the Trump camp did not allow those people in. And I say to myself, if you're a Joe Biden is coming to town and he's holding a rally or whatever, if I'm decked up in MAGA gear, which I would never do, but if I was,
I'll get you a hat.
they would still allow me in. I just feel like that's a fundamental difference. If you don't support Donald Trump, they don't want you there. I just think that's like dictatorship stuff. I don't like that. And I know you wouldn't do that.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, I put my phone number out for everybody to call me. I don't care who you are. You know,
well, you're here, so clearly.
My office is right next door to the Down syndrome office.
Right.
And I love those guys. That's great kids.
Yeah. Joseph, do you want anything else you want to add to that?
Well, and also to be me personally, the only thing that's going to be upset me the most is that if Trump is going to become president, he's going to start going after every library. And I'm at one right now because sooner or later he's going to go after comic books, and sooner or later he's going after video games, and he's going to burn them all out because he's going to think that comic books and video games are going to diminish the intelligence of the children. But me personally, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter.
Maybe that's extreme. Maybe that's extreme. But a book that says the word "gay" in it, I could certainly see that being burned. I could definitely see that. I don't know, Joseph. I appreciate your call, my friend. Thank you so much, Alan.
Right, you got it.
I just feel like banning these books. And listen, I'm not saying that if you're a 10-year-old kid, you should be reading explicit sexual content. But if you listen to some Republicans out there, they'll lead you to believe that they're giving pornography to our little children in the public school system.
Well, okay. I was at that meeting, and the material was very graphic. It was very specific, and it was in the form of a graphic novel, kids' comic book.
Is that being assigned to kids?
It's available to them in their library,
okay. So
and they're continuing to follow up with it in the sex education program that they are trying to put through in Clark County. If that book was in any of our homes, we would have been arrested for child porn. Now,
so if something like
why is that in our children's library? I have an issue with that.
Yeah,
yes.
And I do as well. I just think that there are situations where maybe it goes a little bit too far as banning certain books. But yeah, I don't think that's appropriate for children either. I think we could be realistic about this. Do I think this is the biggest issue facing the country right now and harming our kids the most? No, I don't. I think there are far more serious issues. But yes, I would tend to agree with you on that. I'm not for that one bit. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. He is Alan Bigelow, running for Assembly District 5, joining us in studio. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Roy. Roy is next up on Pushing Limits. What's up, Roy?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Alan. How you guys
Roy.
doing?
How are you?
Good.
Okay. Oh, boy, where do I begin?
At the beginning?
I guess so. First, I would just like to mention a couple of things. One, I think that a lot of the inflation was caused by the pandemic, which interrupted the supply flow. And the other thing which really made a big dent was the reduction in corporate taxes. I've mentioned this to Brian before. When they went from 35% to 21%, companies got wild-eyed. Hey, this may not last. Let's get as much money as we can out of everybody. And prices went crazy. That, to me, was a big factor in what caused the inflation here. The other thing I want to say, I hate Donald Trump, point blank. I respect what you've done and what you do personally.
Thank you.
But, how do you even equate what happened on January 6th in this country?
Well, I wasn't there, and his statements at this point where he asked for a peaceful demonstration, we're starting to see a lot more of the information getting released. And so until they get all of it out there where we can actually analyze it on our own, I think there's some rhetoric on both sides that's trying to slant it one way or another. And I don't know that, honestly, storming the Capitol building, that's a little ridiculous.
Why did he sit and watch for 5 hours before doing anything about it? He wanted that to happen. He was thrilled.
Well, when we look at in the old days, back when we were a lot more civil to each other, we didn't even have a fence around the building. Now we've got a guarded fence. We've got machine guns and missiles on the roof to protect against any kind of attack. don't know that we've even. I think we're digressing. I guess not progressing in that realm because it's the people's house. It's our.
But let me ask both of you this question, and I think both of you can be right. But if Donald Trump didn't say that the 2020 election was stolen and that the Democrats cheated and Joe Biden cheated, January 6th, does it happen?
No.
Okay, so Roy says no.
Happened.
I agree with him. Alan, does January 6th happen if Donald Trump isn't lying? Now, let me just be clear on this before I even ask you. You've admitted to me, right? Joe Biden is a free and fair elected president. That Joe Biden, which I appreciate.
The thing is in there, in the election, we just saw the glitch with the Secretary of State's office. Until people complained about it, they didn't know about it. The governor, in fact, I spoke to the governor personally about it. And our governor, Lombardo, immediately got on the phone and said, "Hey, Cisco, what's going on?" And so all of a sudden, I didn't know that was going on. Well, guess what? It's, we have a bug in that system. So is that proof of a cheating election? Could be. I don't know what, I don't know what the algorithm was.
Couldn't it have helped Donald Trump? Couldn't it have helped Donald Trump more than Joe Biden? Even we don't know.
We don't know. That's the whole thing. And
so if you don't know, then don't you think it's irresponsible for a former president to this day to say that he won the election in a landslide? CPAC, Alan, you have to agree with me. There are some crazy people at CPAC, okay? They're singing songs, Trump won, and you know it. There's Steve Bannon's up there saying that we all know that Trump won. You've got Navarro, a convicted felon, up there speaking. You've got DUI Matt Gaetz up there. I'm sorry. I just think CPAC is a bunch of pedophiles. I know I sound like a Republican saying that. The Matt Gaetz pedophile group of people. You've got Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy there. It's a bunch of conspiracy theorists, convicted criminals up there, and they're saying that Donald Trump won the election. I mean, I want to talk about the issues, but this is absurd.
At this point, I mean, we're going into another election, and
he's still carrying on about the 2020 election.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
and
come
also,
on, get a life.
I recall during his debate, one of his debates with Biden, he said to the Proud Boys, "Stand by."
Yeah, well, that was absurd. Stand back and stand by. You can't talk like that up to a hate group. I mean, that's absurd.
Well, those guys are still in jail.
Yeah.
But we need to move forward.
The problem also is Donald Trump respects nobody but Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And you're a decent guy, Alan. I know you do a lot of good for your community.
Well, thank you.
But this man does good for nobody but himself.
Roy, you're not going to get a complaint from me. There are people,
I know,
but there are a lot of.
It boggles my mind.
Yes.
That there are good people out there, reasonably intelligent people. Not all of them, mind you, but who can still support this man with his 91 counts against him and all the other crap that he's done and all the other crap that he said.
Well, listen, I understand.
I think you're too smart a guy to support him.
Well, and a lot of times,
thank you for the call, Roy, by the way. I appreciate it.
The big federal races end up being something way out of what we're actually looking at. Our state legislature races, we handle the business of the state. And it's our job to take care of the people.
Sure.
At the federal level, it's a whole nother animal. And
I get that. I just wish, Alan, I can get you on the. I'm never going to get you to vote for Biden, and I know that. Okay, you're not going to get me to vote for. I just wish I could get you on the side of Amy Tarkanian, which would be, I'm going to vote for a Republican. I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden, which I get it. We might disagree. I get it. But I can't support Donald Trump. I'm never going to get you to say that.
I taught Amy Tarkanian CPR, actually.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
Amy and Danny both.
She's a very nice lady. Here's someone who's the former Nevada Republican chair who can't stand Trump now. She might hate Trump more than I do, or maybe even more than Melania does. That was a terrible joke.
Well, this is probably 17, 18 years ago when Jerry was still alive, and they came out to Pahrump, and I was actually hosting a 4th of July event for the town. Well, actually, it was for the 4th of July, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Amy's a wonderful lady.
And I knew Amy from some of the conferences and things that I went to, and so.
When I became friends with her, I'm going to tell you when I defended her. Several years back. Michelle Fiore.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. For those of you that don't, that are watching. MAGA Republican Michelle Fiore. Amy Tarkanian, the former Nevada Republican chair, did not support Michelle's run for office. So what did Michelle Fiore do? For lack of a better term, slut-shamed Amy Tarkanian, which, by the way, is disgusting. She's a beautiful wife and mother and does a great job with her family.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like with some of these ultra-far-right MAGA Republicans, if you don't support them, they will come after you with vigor and anger and hatred. And I thought that was so disgusting. Amy is such a nice person. We become friends ever since.
You got to take things into the right perspective. I mean,
Right,
personal
right.
attacks are they're just wrong.
And that's all that Trump does,
You
though.
know,
That's
I
all
mean,
that he does, Alan.
I've already had a few from my primary opponent.
It's awful. I don't support
and it's
that.
ridiculous.
It is. I agree with you.
Deal with the issues. Deal with the issues.
I agree
and
with
that's,
you.
And that's the whole point. You and I can sit down and have these conversations.
Yes.
Let's get everybody together.
I
was at a dinner.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this lady from anybody. And she sat down and she introduced herself. And I didn't realize she was actually a sitting assemblywoman and a Democrat.
Yeah.
And her name's Claire Thomas. And we had a great conversation about children's education.
Yeah.
We have, philosophical differences in different areas. But children's education, we could come together and say, we need to have this done.
And I support that. But I know I'm giving you a lot of crap for your Trump stuff because we agree on a lot of things too. Trump has nicknames to insult people that disagree with him. An 8-year-old does that, Alan. An 8-year-old. He has nicknames for people. I mean, anyway, let's get back to the calls. It drives me crazy. 702-221-7283. Not that I've ever called Trump Orange Turd or Cheeto Jesus. I would never do that.
Oh, not
I'd
ever.
never do that. Let's go to Steve. Steve is next on Pushing the Limits. What's up, Steve? You're on with Alan Bigelow. Go ahead, Steve.
How you doing, Brian? How you doing, Alan?
Good, Steve. Thanks for calling.
I just wanted to see, as someone that is knowledgeable or should be knowledgeable, would you be willing to dispel the notion that more people voted than were registered to vote, just to get it out there to all the maggots, because I hear it constantly.
More people voted than were registered? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
There are cases where 2 or 3 people are at a house that are no longer there, and somehow those things ended up as votes. And they're in this recent glitch. I know probably 20 people for sure that didn't vote in the primary, but their vote was counted. So is it possible? Maybe. I don't know. I think in the process of proving the votes, and there's actually a term where they, what's the term, Brian?
I'm talking about the 2020 election,
right?
Because maggots somehow think in their mind that many more people voted than were registered to vote, and it's a very simple mathematical problem. And you can see how many people have registered and how many people actually voted. And this is a notion in Republicans' minds that something crazy went on there. And that one woman that was on there with Giuliani actually brought that up at one of the hearings.
Right, but it's not true because it's never been proven in a court of law. Donald Trump had 60 opportunities with his attorneys to prove it. Everything's been unproven. There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. When you say Trump won the 2000, I'm not saying you say this or Alan says this, but when Republicans, some say that Trump won the 2020 election, it's like saying the earth is flat. It's flat out false. It's wrong. Donald Trump is a narcissist. He can't admit he lost the election. He'll take it to his grave. And then maybe somebody will bury him on the first hole of Mar-a-Lago's golf
Well, and
course.
is there going to be an irregularity every once in a while? Probably, but something that I can attest to, because I did run a caucus site, is we accounted for every single vote, and we had voter ID in place, and they were paper ballots.
Yeah,
and we were done. And granted, we had 900 ballots to count. Okay, it wasn't millions like nationwide, but we had 900 ballots. And within 30 minutes of closing the caucus site, we were done. And everybody showed their ID. Everybody, got a paper ballot, and everybody had the opportunity.
And that's
to
good.
vote.
And I wish everything was perfect. No election is going to be perfect. But when the Kerry Lakes of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world make claims that are unfounded and untrue, it's different from what you're saying, Alan. Do we want our elections to be secure? They're never going to be perfect. Can we do things? Maybe. Listen, I believe in voter ID. Yeah. I think you should probably have to have an ID to vote. Okay,
and you got to have a vote ID to buy alcohol. You have to have an ID to driver's license to drive.
But hear me out on this, Alan. When people say stuff like that, if they're willing to admit that Trump lost, I'm going to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the second I hear them say that Trump won, they have zero credibility, right? You're one who has always told me that, yes, Joe Biden won a free and fair election, but here's some things we can do to make elections more secure. Okay, I'm listening. That's fair.
And that's the thing, you know.
Yeah.
These are things that I have seen and I can testify to. I can't testify to a nationwide, voter fraud thing because I didn't count the nationwide votes.
Right.
I can attest to 900 votes that I did count, and we counted for every single vote we had.
Absolutely.
Right up to the end. I straw counted and then I hand counted each one.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with a discrepancy of 2. Well, it turns out that we had 2 votes that were voided because they wrote the wrong thing in,
and that's going to happen.
And so
that's going to happen.
We accounted for every one of them.
We're not going to get we're not going to get an insurrection because
but we knew we knew why we had 2 missing.
Sure.
And we could account for everything.
702-221-7283. Let's take some more phone calls. We have one phone line open, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Lori. Lori is next on Pushing Limits. Hi, Lori. You're on with Alan Bigelow. Go right ahead.
Hi, this is Lori. Yes. Good afternoon to both of you. I know I'll never change your mind, Ellen, about Donald Trump, and I'm not going to try. I'm going to ask you about Project 2025. It is a conservative plan that has been put in place by the Heritage Foundation and 50 other conservative leading think tanks. And it is a written plan. I don't agree with any of it, but it is already in place. And it is said to be that if he wins the election, then within 80 days or so, it will be implemented. And in it, it's a 1,000-page document. And I went through it, and I actually made bullet points, and I'm not going to go through it today. There's no way. It's on my website, but there are some things in there that people should be aware of and afraid of.
What's your website? I'm sorry to interrupt.
My website?
Your website, yeah, because I'd like to read it.
Okay, it is called, my website is called kitchenpolitics123.com. And it's on there. It's all, like I said, I laid it all out. It took me quite a while to do it, but I thought it was important to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're going to do is say goodbye to, I'll just highlight a few things.
Sure.
They want to say goodbye to religious freedoms, which is on page 13. They also want to get rid of trans and LGBTQ. That will be will be erased. They are going to make art illegal, and because they say that it's a freedom of, it is a freedom of speech and it is a freedom of expression, but they are going to label some of it as pornography. And if you think about like the Michelangelos, that sort of, they will call that pornography.
Well,
and that'll be, that will disappear.
We'll definitely check it out. Go ahead, Alan. Alan had a question.
Yeah,
for you.
Go ahead.
I kind of have to really, I would be very against a lot of that. I've studied the actual Republican planks that we have here in Nevada, and there's probably about 15 of them I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Eliminating gays would be trouble for me because I have a gay stepdaughter.
What does that even mean?
Really,
eliminate?
That would just, I would be fired up, and they'd have to.
They're just going to make it illegal. They're going to make it illegal. If you go on the website, like I said, I did go through, and it's just too much to to do here.
There's some people out there that say, "Oh, that's never going to happen. Democrats are trying to scare you with that." And I say to myself, well, a lot of people said Roe versus Wade would never be overturned, and now in some places, if a woman has an abortion, she can go to jail. I mean, I wouldn't put it past it. Lori, I do appreciate your phone call. I got to move on to some other callers.
Thanks, Lori.
We'll check out your website. Thank you, Lori, for the phone call. Appreciate you.
No problem. No problem.
We do have to get to the border, and I know we have some people on the line.
And that's the thing. It's like how can you eliminate people and their affections? And I mean, you know, if somebody's going to come after my daughter, they're going to have a hard time.
That's horrible.
And we've talked about, you know, why do we have guns and why, you know, and things like that. And you know what? Try it at my house. You know,
there is a percentage. I'm not saying every Republican feels that way. I know you don't. You're a perfect example of that. But there is a portion of the MAGA extreme Republicans out there, if they had it their way, they would probably want to eliminate transgenderism, those that are gay. There is still a large portion of the Republican Party that believes gay is a sin. I don't think you would call a member of your family a sinner because their sexuality is different than yours. And then when I talk to some of these people about it, their excuse, because that's what it is, I think it's excuse to hide behind your bigotry by using their religion.
Well, if you go into the religion side of it, it's very specific in the Bible. You know, the whole process is hate the sin, not the sinner.
Right, right.
So you should love the sinner.
Right.
You know, and just, gosh, I mean, yeah, I defend my family very ferociously, and you know that. And
I know
we've
that.
talked about,
Yep.
you know, why my wife would need a high-capacity magazine in the past.
But there.
Oh, by the way, yeah, I did get married.
Congratulations
Well, thank
on
you.
that, by the
Yeah.
way. Congratulations. Those in the Democrat Party support, I'm sorry, your daughter, those in the Democrat Party support your daughter. They overwhelmingly support her lifestyle. They want her to be happy. And there is, I'm sorry, I'm just calling, there is a large portion of the Republican Party that not only does not support your daughter's lifestyle, which, by the way, is tragic that they feel that way, but they would do what they can to stop her from marrying another woman. And I find that, for lack of a better term, to be a form of bigotry. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, yeah, and that's, you know, here in Nevada, we changed our Constitution to include that as a right. We changed our Constitution to be in the realm of abortion, and it comes up every election, but there's no reason to even discuss abortion in Nevada because it's legal up to 6 months.
But do you know why I discuss
and you can
it?
continue to be legal
Agree.
if there's a need for the mother's health.
Agree. But do you know why I discuss it, Alan? Because there are a lot of women across the country that are scared and they're worried that if they do get pregnant and they need an abortion, that they're going to have to go through hula hoops in order to get that abortion. Maybe not in Nevada right now. I agree with you. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Damon. Damon is next up on Pushing Limits. What's up, Damon?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, what's going on?
Did I hear your guest say he was a police officer?
I was. Yep, for 4 years.
Yes.
For 4 years, okay. And you're a Republican, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect person to answer this question.
Okay.
Okay, first question to you. Do you think it's racism in the criminal justice system?
My background in that was very unique because I was a policeman in the South, and specifically North Carolina, and I had they were recording that particular county was very racially divided in as much as the living arrangements and things like that. I personally am very not in any kind of a racial bigotry or anything like that because my family is so diverse. He's
definitely not asking you about you, right?
But the question is, do you think it's in the system, not that part?
Yeah.
Is it in the system? I've seen it in the system in certain situations in certain areas. I'm glad that it's becoming more diverse, and I'm actually very proud of our sheriff because he is trying to make things. Sheriff McMahill.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
And,
I don't want to campaign for him.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't want to campaign for him. But thank you.
But yeah, I have seen it in the past, and
okay,
I
so it exists.
In places, I'm sure.
So it exists.
Yeah,
Okay,
it still does.
Let me get to my point.
Yeah.
Okay, so racism exists. I didn't expect you to say that, but okay, that makes my point easier. No,
well, and that's the thing.
Donald
You know,
Trump
I
did-
actually think about what I'm doing, and I've experienced so many, the different things across the nation. Because I did, travel quite a bit with the military, and I did travel, as an individual.
Sure.
Years ago, as a roadie with a singer, so I see the environments, I see the different things.
Okay, got you. Okay, got you.
Yeah.
All right, now, Donald Trump the other day at CPAC, he said that he's being treated like black people. He's being indicted unfairly. He's being overcharged and he's being railroaded. All the stuff he's complaining about, right?
So a rich white guy
Not
saying
one
he's being
But let me
mistreated.
finish. Let me finish.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Let me finish. Then you
Go ahead,
respond.
Damon. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, he said all that. Not one person in the crowd, like when he bring up vaccines, went, ooh, or no. They started laughing because they knew that was true. But the Republican whole basis for campaigning everything, there's no racism in this country. The government is never against them. The DAs, it's all on the up and up.
Oh,
Black people are just
listen, Vegas.
Wait,
yeah.
hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Okay, now that's the narrative. So if that's the narrative, I've been watching them spin what Donald Trump said the past few days. Normally, their number one go-to is he was just joking. Now, if he said something that was totally untrue, like the Republicans say is totally untrue and does not exist, they would have said, well, he was just joking because you know racism doesn't exist. But no, everybody just went with that, and they're like, yeah, he's being treated like black people unfairly. Now, how can both things be true? When the Republican Party, you as a Republican, tell me, how can both things be true, and as a cop, you've seen it, and they say it's not there, then he jokes about it, and nobody goes against that.
Well, you're
That-
right.
no, the
That's the
police-
whole thing. It can't both be true. And growing up in Las Vegas here, I saw it firsthand when I was a kid. You know, this town had very, very definite boundaries. You know, you had over there in like Washington and over in, they used to call it the Dead President's Zone, all the names of the streets of the presidents. 28th Street over on East Fremont was a Latino district. Charleston Heights was white. So, and that continued even into the 80s. And now I'm glad that to me, it's ridiculous.
I mean, Alan, when to Damon's point, and by the way, Damon, thank you for the call. It's always good.
Great question.
Always good to hear from you, and I appreciate your call. And I'm going to go with thank you, Damon, and I'm going to go with along the lines of what Damon said. Did it make you feel uncomfortable as it made me feel uncomfortable when Donald Trump starts talking about black people and then he starts comparing himself to black people that have been mistreated in our justice system? Donald Trump wants to go on the tour of being the crybaby, and he's being mistreated, and the Biden DOJ and all these people are going after him, even some judges that are appointed by Trump. But when he starts comparing himself to black people in this country who not that long ago were owned as slaves, it makes me, first of all, beyond complicit for him to make a statement like that. And I would say borderline racist when he starts talking about his mugshot and saying, well, I think black people can relate to me now. I think that's borderline racism, and it's absurd.
I sit there and I just wish he would shut up sometimes. Just shut up. Make business decisions, because Damien's right. I mean, you can't both be right.
Right.
And it goes back and forth across left or right. One's always saying something, the other one's always saying the opposite, and it doesn't matter what it is. We could go out and the Republicans would say the sky is blue, and the Democrats would say the sky is yellow, and the next day they say it's, the Republicans say it's yellow, and the Democrats say it's blue. And how about we just get on the fact of some truth? How about we just sit there and be human beings again? How about you shake your neighbor's hand?
So I want to give you an opportunity to criticize Democrats. I've been grilling you about Donald Trump for an hour now. But give me an example of, before I take some more calls, give me an example of, Democrats and complete and utter mistruths by maybe the Biden administration or a very prominent Democrat where you can say, you know what, Trump's lying about this, but here's what the Democrats are lying about. Because I want to dissect your brain a little bit. A criticism of Democrats where they're just blatantly lying about something.
Well, I'm going to start with Senator Cortez Masto.
Okay.
She is out there saying, oh, you're taking away your right to choose, your right to choose. Women's rights are on. No, they're not. They're protected by the Nevada Constitution.
In Nevada. But
And
she's talking about the
she
entire country.
No. She talks about Nevada consistently. Okay. It's always that, she speaks about Nevada. If she wants to get on the bandwagon, maybe she should read the Nevada Constitution.
So it's up to the voters.
It is.
So maybe she is uneducated on the law in the state of Nevada. That could be true.
She's been a sitting senator for how many terms now?
Yeah. But but to her defense in this aspect, there are a lot of women in this country that are very worried about their health, and what the government is going to tell you what to do with your own body.
Well, and that's the
It's a
thing.
big issue.
In Nevada, it's a protected right. In Nevada, it's the law. There's nothing that the legislature can do about it. It has to come from the people, and we both know how that has to work.
So I think, okay, I hear what you're saying. I think there could be a distinction between Ocasio-Cortez maybe not knowing the laws in the state of Nevada.
Ooh.
There could be a distinction between
Cortez Masto.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Ocasio-Cortez.
Cortez Masto. Yeah.
I apologize. I thought you said AOC.
Yeah. No, AOC cracks me up.
Okay.
I do nothing but enjoy that as entertainment.
So Masto might be using that and as a scare tactic. That could be very possible, and hopefully we'll be getting her on the show soon. It is up to the voters.
It is.
But I think there is still a concern from women I speak to, even in Nevada, that down the road, it might not be up to the voters, that they might change law and they might switch it up and say, you know what, if Republicans are running this state down the road, that they could ban abortion. I think down the road, people are concerned about that.
Here's where Roe versus Wade kicks in, because Roe versus Wade, the overturning of that, put abortion back into states' rights. So Nevada, as a state, chooses how it handles that. Our Constitution was made law, or it was made law in our Constitution, rather, to support that thing. That's that individual right, just like it did with marriages and
I get that.
Domestic
but do you get my
partnerships
point, though, Alan?
And
nobody thought
state,
Roe versus Wade was going to be overturned. Kavanaugh, when they were trying to become Supreme Court justices, they lied to us. They said, nope, that's the law of the land. We're not changing it. That's basically what Kavanaugh and Barrett said. And then Roe versus Wade is overturned. Why? Donald Trump. And now look at the situation we're in, where these treatments and this ridiculous decision by the Alabama Supreme Court, it's affecting people's lives, affecting their ability to have kids. Hospitals aren't going to do this type of technology anymore. And now all of a sudden, Donald Trump is, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. I don't like this decision. Well, guess what? It's your fault, because he put these justices in place in the Supreme Court. If he didn't do that, this decision would have never happened in Alabama. And now Republicans, at least those that have a brain, are finally starting to say, geez, this was a really bad decision. This can't happen because we're not going to win elections anymore. I mean, this is why you don't have these, in my opinion, okay, it's not pro-life. It's anti-abortion. The reason why I say that is because after the child, it's pro-embryo, whatever you want to call it. As soon as that baby is born, I want you to be consistent on your pro-life stance.
Right.
Don't vote against, proper health care or maternity leave. Don't vote against welfare, food stamps, or any government program that can help a single mother raise that child. To me, it's anti-abortion. Now, with that being said, here's where I agree with Nikki Haley. Let's agree. Most of this country is not for late-term abortion unless it's to the health of the mother.
Sure.
Great. You want to do a 6-month rule or a 5-month rule? All for it. No problem. But to tell a woman what to do with her body, or God forbid, a young girl is raped.
And those are very, very specific exceptions in the situation. Do you sit there and say, well, you got to have the kid? A 15-year-old's not able to handle the kid. It's happened, and
correct.
It's, in the pioneer days, it was pretty common for a 15, 16-year-old to get married and have kids.
Right.
Different world. Very.
And Alan, there's hundreds of thousands of kids right now that are being waited to be adopted. And some of these people that are, I call them extremists, that are, pro-life. Every woman who has an abortion is a murderer. These are the same women that haven't adopted one child. They don't walk the walk and talk the talk. At least you're somebody, you serve this country, you risked your life. This country means something to you.
I was an unplanned pregnancy.
Right.
So, what? I wouldn't have been there to do that. I wouldn't have been, again, my grandparents were very strict with my mother and their religious beliefs. I'm glad of it, because I'm sitting here having this conversation with you.
Sure. Yep.
But they were, very committed to how they felt. I don't disagree with somebody having that kind of commitment, either side. Okay. My personal belief is I am not in favor of abortions except for in very specific situations, and we've talked about this in the past.
But you wouldn't tell somebody else what to do.
It's not my job to tell somebody else what to do. It's
I
my
agree.
job
Live your life.
As a legislator, our job is to protect the people, manage the money. That's the nutshell version of it.
You don't believe banning abortion is doing that. It's not protecting the people.
We haven't banned it. That's the whole point.
But if some Republicans had their way, they would. They would want a national ban.
A national ban would affect states' rights, and I think.
Well, in some states, it's illegal to have an abortion. In some states, already.
And again, that's back to the states' rights.
Right.
States' rights should include that, as well as education, and as well as a few other things. If the people of that state say this is what we want, move.
Yeah,
we're freely moving people in the United States. We keep seeing this crazy mass migration going to Florida because of the tax situation there and whatever.
But we can't have.
But you can't fill up Florida with 1 billion people.
I get what you're saying, but if I said to you, and this is an extreme example, but if I said to you, gay people can't live in Massachusetts. Well, if you don't like it, the people voted on it, so you can go ahead and move. Now, I know that's an extreme position, okay? And that's not going to happen, I hope. But I believe telling a woman what to do with her body is just as extreme. I believe going into a family's life or telling a 14-year-old girl who makes a mistake that she has to have a rape baby. That's not a mistake, by the way. That's assault. Sexual assault. But in general, I believe that's extreme. And I understand what you are saying. Leave it to the people. Let the states decide. But I still believe that's an extreme position. And a woman or a teenage girl should not have to move to another state with her family because the government is telling her, you can't have an abortion. It's illegal. I find that to be repugnant. I don't like it.
And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, here in Nevada, it's handled. It's
understood.
Water under the bridge.
Yep.
We don't have to choose that. It's already decided. It's already law. Other states choose whatever they choose. And again, that's just a kind of a back and forth extreme on that.
Yeah.
But the reality is if we don't like it, we as a people can change it.
I just
we
don't
have
want
that right to petition the government.
I get it, but I hear a lot of Republicans saying, we don't want a lot don't involved in our lives. This is exactly the opposite of that. And this is the government involved in our lives. Let's take some more phone calls.
Sure.
I have a MAGA supporter on the line.
Okay.
It's not all Democrats that are going to go after you, Alan. Come on. 702, and by the way, I haven't even gotten to immigration yet. 702.
We're getting there.
Yeah, 702-221-7283. Let's go to our MAGA resident caller. Let's go to Julie. Hello, Julie. You're on with Alan Bigelow.
Hello, Alan. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Julie.
Yes, I have so many things. I have so many things in my mind right now that I don't know where to start. Okay, I have been very concerned about the education system in this country that is producing the most dumbest kids in the history of the United States. And I have been witnessing the education problem. When kids get out of high school, they don't even know basic math and reading.
Right.
But we are concerned about other issues that it shouldn't be issues, because if we don't have kids that don't even know where Burkina Faso is located in Africa, we shouldn't be teaching kids how to do a blowjob. Okay?
You're right. And I have gone up on record and spoke against that.
And I have
Hold on, Julie.
I'm a mother.
Okay, Julie, hang on a second. Can you please name me the teacher and what elementary or high school that are teaching kids how to perform oral sex?
That's actually part of the curriculum they're teaching.
Brian, there are a lot of books that has been.
I didn't ask you about books. There are teachers in this country that are teaching their kids how to perform fellatio.
No, listen to me. The books were placed in the library of elementary
I didn't ask you about a book that was placed in a library. I asked you about, is it in the curriculum that a teacher is going to teach students how to perform fellatio?
The books that
Okay, so it's not being taught in our school. Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that.
Well, basically, it's at the tips of. It's at the tip. It's in the access to the elementary.
I think the only place that it might be taught how to perform fellatio are House Republicans when it comes to Donald Trump. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julie.
That's so rude of you, Brian. It's
not rude at all. It's
wow.
I'm being honest.
Okay, I want to talk about something that Roy said, I don't usually talk about anyone because that's very disrespectful. But I know that some
because you never talk about Joe Biden. Because you never talk about Joe Biden.
Roy talk about me. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, Roy, stop blaming the inflation to COVID. Because Javier Milei,
you're right. Inflation has nothing to do with the global pandemic. You're absolutely right, Julie. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, we cannot continue blaming COVID because Javier Milei.
We can't continue blaming. So COVID didn't exist. We just want to pretend like it didn't exist, Julie.
Okay. No, listen to my statement.
I heard your statement. You said we can't blame COVID on inflation. Ridiculous statement.
No.
So
because Javier Milei.
So let's go with that then. No. Let's go with that.
So
the world had to deal with inflation. The world, not just. Let me finish. The world had to deal with it. Let me finish. The world had to deal with inflation, right? The world had to deal with it. So that had nothing to do with COVID. Is that your position, Julie?
Javier Milei, the new president of Argentina, has been in power for 2 weeks and has reduced the size of the government by more than 50%. Repeal 3A.
Excuse me. I'm not finished. I'm doing my thing. No, stop.
Ron DeSantis is trying to interrupt you, Julie. That wasn't me. Okay, I'm sorry. Alan, would you like to respond to Julie?
So I'm pretty sure I know what Julie's talking about as far as the curriculum goes. Roughly 2 years ago, there was a meeting with the Clark County school districts, and they're discussing the sex education curriculum. And in that curriculum, there was several very questionable books, part of it, and they're still discussing it, and they're trying to determine how they're going to administer. And in the process of all of that, it goes back to that graphic novel that I brought up a little bit ago.
But isn't there a difference between saying what oral sex is and the way Julie described it is teaching them how to perform it?
Well, and that's
a very different distinction.
And it is part of a proposed curriculum in there is to teach safe sex.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Now,
if you're old enough,
under the NRS,
yeah,
it requires that they teach how babies are made and how to prevent STDs. That's the two tenets of that particular NRS. Does it say a guy does this to a girl, or a girl does this to a guy, or a guy does this to a guy, or a girl? That's nowhere in there. But it is being considered to be included.
So, Julie, I don't think there's anything wrong with teaching our high school kids, not 10-year-olds, what safe sex is. I actually think that's a good thing, just like I think it's a good thing to tell children or teenagers that it's okay to be gay and it's okay to be who you are and treat everybody with respect. Julie, I do appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. I got to move on to some other callers. Is a fine difference between teaching safe sex and then telling people how to perform oral sex. Why don't we go to Paul? Paul is next up on Pushing Limits. Hi, Paul. You're on with Alan Bigelow. What's up, Paul?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good.
Hey, good.
Hey, I just want to say I used to be a Republican. It's refreshing to hear a Republican that has working brain cells.
No, thanks.
So I just want to give you kudos for that. And my bar is pretty low right now for that.
I did graduate high school here in Las Vegas, so.
It was the best 6 years of your life, right?
Exactly.
That was a joke.
Yep.
I think for me, and I say this as a person of faith, I think where I struggle with all of this is we're stuck in our tribes, right? Mm-hmm. You're an idiot. I'm right. No, I'm right. You're wrong. You're stupid if you don't agree with me. It's just, I think a lot of this is this Christian nationalism, right? It's like, if God wanted things to be a certain way, that he would make them happen. But somehow it feels like the white evangelical church, the Joe Olstings and the Locks and all these crazy people that have somehow moved religion behind the pulpit, and whoever they deem is their candidate, all of a sudden they're anointed by God. And I think, unless I'm wrong, part of this is that. It's this brainwashing, this person's your enemy, you have to be this tough guy of toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. And I think to some extent, that's how we got somebody like a Trump. It's this us against the world, we're the victim, you know, and I think where the challenge is, you know, we have all these people that say I'm pro-life and I'm for God, but they're nowhere speaking out when George Floyd gets murdered by a white cop, or very fine people on both sides.
Yeah, that was absolutely uncalled for. There's a lot of overextension of force in some of those cases. You know,
well, I'm not saying it from the perspective of the police. I'm saying these people that claim to be pro-life and that are so against immigrants coming across the border, those weren't immigrants that murdered George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or did the tiki torches or they say white power or cheated on their third wife with a porn star or raped Jean Carroll. Like, it's just amazing how cherry-picked these evangelicals are. And they always say, well, no one's perfect. That's like saying I would vote for Hitler because, you know, nobody's perfect, but he has a really good tax policy and he's not a Democrat. Like, how do we get away from that? Because it just seems like...
How about we just do something, and I'm going to throw this way out there. I'm going to get Brian to react on what I'm getting ready to say. How about if we go into the Old Testament, into Exodus 18, and look at what exactly leaders were supposed to be? There's a very biblical status there, and you know, it wasn't you're chosen because you're rich. It wasn't chosen because, you know, Moses anointed you. It wasn't chosen. People were chosen because they were of good stature. They had good sense, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was because they had wisdom of thought. And I was like, well,
King Solomon.
Yeah, you know, and so I mean, how many times these days do we have a woman come up in front of a judge and the judge, you know, oh, well, that lady says it's hers, and that lady says it's hers. Okay, let's cut the kid in half and give them each half. And no, we don't do that anymore. But the precept was simple: choose people that are you know, have a pragmatic, for lack of a better word, pragmatic thought process. That are stable and that are approachable. Those are those are leadership traits.
I agree, but I think where the challenge is where it seems like the evangelical community are all focused on the old Bible, right? Like, you're going to burn in hell, don't be gay, don't do this. Well, they support someone that sexually assaults a woman, but somehow that's okay. But then they overlook stuff like you're supposed to love thy neighbor as if to heap hot coals on their head. Like, where is that in the evangelical church? And I think that's where my biggest issue is. It's always hellfire and brimstone. You're going to hell. You're an evil libtard. You're destroying the galaxy and the very fabric of space-time continuum. But they never help the poor people. Like, I build beds for the poor people. I donate to our local church that houses people that are on drug addiction. You don't see Trump doing that. You don't see Greg Locke doing that. He's talking about witches and demons being Democrats. But how do you... I don't understand how they square that with somehow being in alignment with God's rules. That maybe you can shed some light on how they get to that point, because I'm totally lost.
First off, thank you for doing that for those folks. I mean, it's kind of that, and again, it's back into the scriptures, is to provide for the poor and the widows, and that's where, as a Christian, you know, our whatever faith ends up being, those are things that we need to continue to do. I mean, if everybody were able to do that, we'd probably be in a lot better place. I
agree.
And the people that have more, meaning those guys like anybody that makes more than $1 million a year, let's say. You know, if they could pitch in just a tiny bit.
But regardless even of, and I agree with what you're saying, but regardless, and the caller, regardless of what the Bible says, Scripture, regardless, the bottom line here is, as a decent human being, as I was raised to try to be one, I hope I am, let's help people that are less fortunate. Let's take care of people that are not doing well financially. Let's try to help them get on their feet. And I think just forget about the Bible or what religion says. We're not doing that in this country. We're not doing that.
And that's the whole thing.
Brian, specifically the people that claim to be following God, that's my problem, is they've made Donald Trump the people that they quote Scripture and goes, thou shalt not have no other God before me. Those people don't have Jesus flags. They have Trump condoms and Trump socks and Trump bumper stickers and Trump flags.
Trump condoms.
The real
they must
God,
be very small.
Right?
They're very small condoms.
Yeah, real small.
Very micro-sized Trump MAGA condoms.
And that's the thing, if people were actually doing in politics, they were actually there for the right reasons, that they were actually being statesmen, which is what our country actually started people out to be.
Alan, I have a question for you then.
Let me finish.
Okay.
If they were being statesmen, if they were doing the things that they should be and representing the people that they're supposed to represent, a lot of these things would probably get fixed. This is, like I've said this over and over and over, and Brian knows this, this is not about me. This is about taking care of the people of Nevada and making sure that our future is secure for our children, our roads and lives are safe.
I agree with you, Alan, but I have to ask you this question.
When our stores are open, they don't have people walk in with a shopping cart and empty the shelf and then walk out to the car without paying for it.
I agree with everything you just said, Alan, but you set yourself up for this question. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you believe Donald Trump is there for the right reasons and he's out for us and not himself?
I think that.
Come on.
I think that is I am there for those reasons. I
know you are, but I didn't ask you that. Come on, Alan.
I think Donald Trump enjoys the spotlight a great deal.
Yes, I agree.
I think that his business sense is spot on in most cases, but I think he's got a potty mouth.
You think he's a good businessman, Alan?
Yeah, can I ask about that? He's got 7 bankruptcies.
He defends, not me. He defends them as it's a legal avenue to balance his books. Now, in New York, they pegged him for $347 million.
He's facing around $500 million total right now. Yeah.
You know what he does? He makes a phone call and invents a tennis shoe and sells every one of them out to the point of that $500 million or whatever it was.
Whoever bought those shoes are idiots, by the way.
They're goofy looking tennis shoes.
They're disgusting. They're $19 cheap sneakers, and whoever buys it is a cultist.
Yeah. So, is that good marketing on his part? Yeah, probably is.
Isn't it tacky? Is that what we want from somebody?
Tacky. It is.
It's so tacky.
It's a solid gold. I mean, I don't know if it's solid gold or if it's gold spray paint or what it is, but you can't even wear them.
When was the last time Trump even put on sneakers where he actually got any physical exercise at all? And then he says, and then on Fox News, they're saying, wow, what a great way to reach across the aisle to black people because black people love sneakers. Arroyo, that clown, said that on Fox News over the weekend.
That's ridiculous.
But Brian, you know what the kicker? But Brian, here's the funny thing. Those people that bought his shoes are bitching and whining that the price of milk and eggs and gas are expensive.
There you go.
Oh, and I harp on that all the time, don't I, Brian?
Alan, I can get you a pair of sneakers signed by Donald Trump for $9,000 if you can fork over the cash.
Okay.
$9,000. I'll forge his autograph.
Yeah.
He has, if you have a lot of loops in your signature, it means you're a narcissist. Trump has a lot of loops. Oh. He has a lot of loops in his signature, and he has a lot of loops in his body too.
But my name's all full of loops. A and an
Fair
L
enough.
and an A and yeah.
Paul, I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you.
Good call. Thanks, man.
Let me say one. Let me say one last thing, Brian.
Sure.
I just think, I happen to be a Democrat, but I have voted for independents. I have voted for Democrats and Republicans. I think everyone even listening to this should be like, I don't like the whole vote blue no matter who. I think it's a bunch. That's tribalism. It's the same thing as I'm only going to vote for Republican. It's the same problem on both sides. I think if we as a people, and if I live in your state, and I'm big on women's rights because it's her right, I agree. I'm not big on abortion, but it's not my decision to say. I just think we need to listen to people and not just vote because they have a D or an R.
Sure.
Because when we get into tribalism, all we do is everything that's bad, we blame on our perceived enemies, and everything that's right, somehow we justify it for the person that's registered in our party. I just think we got to get away from that. This is not
well said.
Let me ask one quick question in here, and I'm glad you brought that point up because in the realm of what's going on in Nevada, we were just told in the past day or two that we are going to face another increase in our natural gas bill by another $100. Who is benefiting that? What candidates are benefiting from donations from the Southwest Gas, for example?
I would say the same thing of people that are benefiting from the NRA. It's bad for our country. Anybody who's taking money from the gas companies, knowing that the gas companies are going to up the prices, I'm not sure that that's killing people, but it's certainly killing them at the bank, in their bank account. It's horrible. I give that analyzation the same thing of people that brag about their A+ rating from the NRA. It's bad. I don't want these private companies buying politicians in any way, shape, or form because it's bad for the country.
The current Assemblywoman in District 5, which is what I'm running for, is taking money from the Southwest Gas.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to see her call out Southwest Gas for hiking the prices. And if she did that, I would have a lot of respect for her.
I did, and I got chewed out for it, but that's okay.
Well,
I don't mind.
I think you're in the right there. Paul, I do appreciate the call. Alan, do you have another...
Thank you, guys.
I've kept you here for a while. Yeah. Do you have another 10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm keeping... Okay, the torture will only last another 10 or 15. No, I want to take a break, and when we come back, we have more people on hold.
Sure.
But I do want to talk to you about immigration. I want to get your thoughts on that. Very big topic, both Republicans and Democrats, rightfully so. Alan Bigelow in studio. He's nice enough to be here running for Assembly District 5. Served this country. Also a former police officer and current firefighter. Certainly a lot of respect for Alan. We'll take a quick break. We'll take more phone calls on the other side. 702-221-7283. His thoughts on our border. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. With that, you're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. Do you know no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
I'm Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, former Lieutenant Governor candidate, Progressive Independent Democrat, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, fully transitioned transgender woman. I support women's rights and veterans and unions and other progressive ideas. Please donate to my campaign on Spot Fund and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Stay progressive, everybody.
Trump won and you know it. Trump won and you know it. Trying to stop the steal. Trump 2024 red pill. We know they stole the E. 81 million votes. Boy, please.
You know, you have all these different songs now coming out about Donald Trump at CPAC, and this is another one. Trump won and you know it. That's a knockoff to the song I'm Sexy and I Know It, right? I work out. Anyway, welcome back to the show. It's Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Carmine Sabia, you might have heard him. He's a very popular right-wing podcaster, very popular on social media. Carmine has a ton of followers. He's going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. That's going to be a really good debate. Joining us in studio today, he is Alan Bigelow, running for Assembly District 5 as a Republican, joining us in studio. If you're watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, we ask you click on that subscribe button. It's only $5. Turn that stupid song off. That's enough. Enough already. $5 for a subscription on Occupy. And you can follow me because every day now I'm doing a little overtime with Brian Shapiro, stealing that from the Bill Maher show. If you subscribe to my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, again, at PTL Radio Show on my YouTube page, you're going to get extra live show, extra overtime of Pushing the Limits every day. So you want to subscribe and do that. As I mentioned, Alan Bigelow joining us in studio. Alan, we haven't had the opportunity yet to talk about the border crisis.
Sure, but you mean you don't work out? Is that what I just heard?
Look at me. Are you kidding me? Look at me.
You know.
I never did weights. However, I did ref 3 basketball games last night to get some exercise, and I felt pretty good. I can run. I can do cardio. I can play tennis and all that, but I've never been one really to do weights.
Yeah. Healthy body, healthy mind.
I've also never been one to purchase an ultra-small Donald Trump condom either. So just to be clear on that one. But anyway, Trump does have small hands.
Yeah. What company makes it?
I don't know. That's a good question. Probably the same company that makes those stupid sneakers.
Yeah.
My Pillow. I bet you Mike Lindell would probably come out with a brand like that as well. I don't know. Have you ever met Mike Lindell, by the way?
I did.
Is he a normal, nice man to talk to?
He really is. He's a little quiet, you know, but he's a
Mike
nice
Lindell's
guy.
quiet?
He's quiet out in public. He just kind of hangs out.
Interesting.
You know?
So the border's been talked about a lot, not just over the last several years, for decades and decades and decades. What are your thoughts on where we're at now with the border?
I really think that, you know, the policy of waiting in Mexico is probably a good thing. And I say that because of the number of non-Latinos that are coming through there now. You know, they did a thing the other day, and 50% of the people were not of Latino heritage. I love it. There's jobs to have. Please come, but do it legally. You know, fill out the paper, and if you don't want to reside here, just get a work card. You know, get a work visa, whatever the case is. Can we Can we make it better? Yeah. Oh yeah. There's plenty of ways to make it better.
Do you agree with me though that I believe it's not just a Democrat or Joe Biden problem or a Republican problem? It's an American problem. We've had this issue for many decades. And has Joe Biden did a great job dealing with the border? No, he hasn't. No. Neither did Donald Trump. And people can say, well, look at all the people that are crossing the border illegally now as opposed to when Trump. Listen, when Trump was in office, it wasn't perfect either. And you had families separated from their kids. There's always been issues. And if people are going to...
And we still have the DACA issue to deal with.
Exactly.
There's quite a bit there. And fortunately, in the state of Nevada, it's a federal issue for you know, immigration. In Nevada, it's not an issue really at all because we don't have to enforce federal regulations. You know, we don't have sanctuary cities here. We don't have well, we're close to the border, but we don't have an actual border.
Right.
You know, they have to actually go through different places. Have people shown up here and created problems? Yeah, absolutely have.
What does sicken me, and I think we'll definitely agree on this, is that even though per capita you have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen, I don't like the rhetoric being put forth by some that say that, all these brown people crossing the border are illegal, they're going to rape your kids. However, in the case what took place in New York City where police officers were beaten by those that were undocumented, I thought it was a disgrace and an embarrassment that, number one, they were released from prison the next day, and number two, they weren't deported. Yeah. So I do believe that there are extremes on the left as well where that cannot happen, and that is an embarrassment to New York, and that's an embarrassment to this country. That can't happen. We don't want bad people coming into this country. At the same time, you have this bill that's put forth by MAGA Republicans and Democrats. It's not perfect. I know you said it yourself. You know, maybe not enough money allocated for Israel. I know you're very pro-Israel. I appreciate that about you, as am I. So we can make that argument. Hey, maybe there wasn't enough money allocated for Israel, maybe too much for Ukraine. Fair argument. However,
well, you know, in Ukraine, we're kind of stuck with Ukraine because when Ukraine eliminated their nuclear weapon arsenal, the agreement was that the U.S. would step up if they needed help. That's the bottom line in it. You know, is it a good policy? Is it a bad policy? I think they probably need to let the fight be the fight, and we should probably take care of our own for a little bit. We've spent a lot of money there.
I get that. At the same time, I get that.
And I'm not anti-Ukraine by any means.
I get that. So when Zelensky says if they don't get more aid, they're going to lose the war, do you think he's lying or like what?
I think he's trying to get everything he can. I think, you know, and a lot of that situation is just it's unfortunate. It's sad that you have two, you know, independent countries trying to fight over stuff that's been in place for years.
But do you agree with Liz Cheney when she says that there is a Putin wing of the right Republican Party?
I don't even know what that is.
Well, I'll tell you what I think that is. Tucker Carlson, for example, who is obviously pro-Putin and pro-Russia. There are people like the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world that actually want Russia to win this war. You know, there are people out there, and listen, again, I hate to go back to Donald Trump, and in this instance, I think I have to. He's never criticized Putin for anything. In fact, when we talked about Navalny, who was just obviously, I think we all could agree what happened to him is he was murdered by the evil Putin regime. Trump, not one bit of criticism. We could have, people like yourself.
And here is probably one of the very rare situations. Well, I will support Biden's choice in this. Biden said that he's a fighter, his wife's a fighter, and he died a fighter. You can't. I mean, you had a sitting president give the guy a tribute. So I can appreciate that.
He blamed Putin, which I think rightfully so. Trump refuses. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything negative about Putin. Biden's called him an evil, murderous dictator. Biden blamed him for the murder of this young man. He was in his 40s, a hero. Why won't Donald Trump ever blame Putin for anything?
Well, Donald Trump's got to get through 91 indictments before he can do anything.
Yeah, but can't you at least say that, this is disgusting and Putin is responsible for this? Why can't he say that?
You got me by the tail there. I don't know. And again, Trump is...
Doesn't mean you have to call him a murderous dictator every day, but
why Trump does things is beyond a lot of people's comprehension, and a lot of times. To me, war is a failure of our politics, and it's always been dictated because the soldiers are the one that know the price of freedom. The soldiers are the ones that know soldiers, sailors, military in general. We know the price of the failed politics of anybody. We know the price of freedom, and when we wrote a blank check and said, you know what, we're here to protect it.
Right.
So, is it right that a communist country is trying to invade a semi-free country? I don't think it's right to invade anybody's borders unless there's a very real reason. Japan bombed us in World War II. Yeah, we had a right to defend ourselves.
If you think we're sending too much aid to Ukraine, I think that's a fair conversation to have. But what I don't like, or not you, but others out there that seem like they are so pro-Putin. I got some people on hold. I got about 1 minute for each of them, and then we got to go. We're almost at the end here. Kava, who's been waiting very patiently on hold. Hi, Kava. Go ahead. You're on with Alan.
Hi. I just want to say that I'm against the Republicans, and it's nothing personal. But as an immigrant myself from Ecuador, I can't stand with the Republicans. I'm sorry, but the way they treat immigrants and the way they call them illegals and all these other derogatory terms, and when we try to tell them or ask them not to, they continue to do it over and over and over and over again. It just shows who they really are as a MAGA team. It shows who they are as a person. And I'm sorry, Republicans, but you've shown your true colors. You've shown who you are as a person. And if you don't like immigrants, just please just be out front and say
I don't think every Republican, though, Kava, to be fair, I don't think every Republican feels that way. I think there is a base of the far-right Republicans, and I agree with you, that do not want this country to look brown, but I don't think every Republican feels that way.
My wife's grandparents were immigrants.
Yeah.
And she's a third generation
Donald
American.
Trump's wife is an immigrant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was at a meeting, at a Latino business meeting, and I said, hey, the jobs are here. Come. We want people to come. Just do the paperwork. That's all.
Yeah, I think there are reasonable Republicans who I speak with on a regular basis, and then there are those on the far right that want everybody deported immediately, and we have to find some middle ground there. And I thought this bill was that. It's not perfect. Both sides aren't 100% on board with it, but it was something that could at least get the ball rolling. And Kava, I do appreciate your call, and I'm glad you're here in this country. And thank you, sir.
And I just want to say that it's nothing like I don't hate all of the Republicans. It's the ones who are doing it that are being a part of the problem. And it comes to a point where it's like, if you call an immigrant illegal, you know it's going to upset them. And if you continue to do it, you know you're just doing it for a reaction.
Then maybe I'm part of the problem because at times I do use the term illegal immigrant. I'm told to use the term undocumented, but they are in the country illegally. I think what Donald Trump does in his rhetoric, these Mexicans, they're rapists and bad people, and I suppose some of them are good. That's another level of just disgusting. But I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate your call, sir. Thank you so much, okay?
Thank you for your time, brother. I appreciate
Yes,
you.
yes. Well, I also want to thank Alan for his time. And Alan, I want to give you the opportunity because, boy, I really bombard you with a lot of Donald Trump questions. But I appreciate the fact that you sit there and you answer them, and and you're honest. And I appreciate that about you.
Well, thanks.
I want you to give out that information. If people want to learn more about your campaign, if people want to donate to your campaign, where do they go to learn more about you?
It's real easy. It's votealanbigelow.com. We made it so simple to find. Social media links are at the bottom of the website. The phone number is 702-427-5656. I usually shut it off around 10 o'clock because I have to get my beauty rest. I am, more than 25 now, so it's one of those things.
Well, besides, your service to this country, a former police officer and still a firefighter, which I think is just so awesome, I greatly respect anybody who is also willing to have these types of conversations, and have good discussions, debates, whatever you want to call it. I think it's really important for the country. And I appreciate you doing that, my man. And you're welcome back anytime.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
I always
thanks for
appreciate
having me.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime, as always. And we've been doing this for a little while now, and I always appreciate our discussions. They're always good.
Well,
and
I will be signing my candidacy forms on Monday morning at 9
good.
a.m. So it's
Good.
an official thing.
I love it.
Monday morning at the government center, and we're pumped. We'll be sending out a press release and everything with it, and.
Well, regardless of political differences, policy differences, we need more good people in office, and I do believe you're one of those people. I know that. We need more good people that are educated, people that walk the walk and talk the talk, who served, and you're absolutely one of those people, and you're one of the good guys. So, Alan Bigelow, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks again. Yeah,
Thank you.
It's always fun.
Appreciate it. A lot of phone calls today, as always. I'm going to be doing overtime on my YouTube page in 5 minutes. At PTL Radio Show. That's at PTL Radio Show to subscribe on my YouTube page, where we'll be doing some overtime of the show. And we do have people on social media saying they will be voting for Alan Bigelow. So I appreciate people out there that like what they heard. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. Tomorrow, right-wing podcaster Carmine Sevilla will be joining us. Also, I appreciate Madhu Valamakani for joining us on the show as well. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a great day.